Hey gamers, we're back with another episode of Let's Create a Competitive Card Game. In this episode, we'll be finishing up the effects for the warrior followers. Alright, so last episode we came up with the first few effects for the warrior followers, and what I'll do is I'll post a link up here for anyone who wants to see what those effects were. Okay, so jumping right into it, the first effect that I came up with was that when this card enters play, it increases the attack of other warriors you control by 1 for the turn. And with that effect, if you guys recall the idea behind warriors and the keyword that I came up with for them, which I haven't actually used on the cards yet, warriors are sort of designed, or the intention behind warriors is that they are the only follower in play, and when they are, they get a huge power up. And if they're not the only follower in play, then that power up or that fearless keyword is inactive. So with this card's effect, I think what I'm actually going to name this card is probably going to be something like a wannabe warrior, as he will not have the fearless keyword. And the art description which I gave to the artist was that essentially this is a warrior that makes other warriors stronger. So I wanted maybe something that looks like a warrior rushing to bring other warriors maybe a handful of weapons like swords or axes or something like that. Okay, so the next effect that I came up with was that when this card destroys a card in combat, you can put a +1 attack token on this card. So again, if you guys recall, warriors will play around with tokens to get more powerful so that their fearless can power up as they fight longer. So the effect which I gave to the artist, or sorry, the art description which I gave to the artist, was that every time this guy beats another card, he gets stronger. So I want something that sort of symbolizes that this warrior is keeping something of those which he's killed. So maybe a necklace with a bunch of different size teeth on it or something like that. So I am interested to see how the artist sort of depicts this vision. Okay, and the last card effect that I came up with was, while this is the only follower you control, its attack is increased by 3. So that is a fearless effect. So that text there will be replaced by maybe a bold lowercase lettered keyword with a colon beside it, or maybe a dash, and then the effect, this card attack increases by 3. Alright, so the art description which I gave to the artist was that I wanted a warrior sort of holding his hand out in a stop motion to maybe some other warriors, and he has a smirk on his face like, hey, don't worry about this, I got this, I can handle this. So that is the art description for that card, and this essentially completes all of the effects for the vast majority of the cards. I do still need to come up with the effects for companions, and if you guys recall, the idea that I had around the effects for the companions was that instead of just having one effect listed on the card, they'd have multiple effects that each have a sort of a threshold of ability points, or maybe an amount of turns on them, where if you have this many ability points, or if this companion has been in play for this amount of times, then this effect here is also active. So that is an idea, or sort of a remake of something that I did see in a different card game. Now in that card game, it did work almost a lot different. So this is sort of a retake on that. So I do need to come up with those card effects, and once I come up with those card effects, I guess the question is, what's next for this series? And so what will be next for this series is, as you guys can see, one, I do need to add the cost, the life, attack, defense, and any keywords which these cards may have. And speaking on keywords, again, for the warriors, I do need to add fearless. And for all of the card effects in general, looking over them, honestly, some of them feel a bit flat, as if they need a little bit more dimension to sort of add something to the game. And some of that stuff may be some things that I may not necessarily know until I've actually play tested this game. But specifically for warriors, I need to add fearless and maybe beef up their stats. So warriors by default, or anything in the power guild by default, will have um, slightly higher stats than life and the mind guilds, as they're more primarily focused on combat. And I don't actually recall what the cost or benefit was for fearless. So let's see. Okay, yeah, so for fearless, I didn't have a benefit or a cost listed. And honestly, that's because fearless it's a tricky one, because it is a negative benefit in that the card has to be the only card in play for the effect of fearless to take place. So if fearless isn't active, the card still needs to have or be around I guess even on the curve for the cost of that card. Could be either even or a little bit slightly better, but fearless needs to account for the fact that it's the only follower, which means that it has to have a huge or negative, which means that the effects can be even more. Okay, so that's one thing that's next, and I'll sort of just list off some things that I am going to cover. So first thing is box art. I need to come up with some box art, and I did find an artist who has more of a digital art style, and that is what I'm going to go with for the box art. And I will do an episode on how I envision the box art and the color schemes and things of that nature. I will do an episode on how to find an artist, as I have gotten that question quite a bit. I can tell you that it is hard to find an artist depending on your budget. Ever since COVID, the artists have been charging way higher prices than normal. So I'll let you guys know who my artist is, and I'll tell you the process that I went through. Quick, I guess, sneak peek. I did look at ArtStation, DeviantArt, and just other art from other card games, which then went and searched for their artists, saw how much they were charging, sent emails. So I'll do a whole video on how to find an artist and how to negotiate prices for art. I'll do a video on also how to print, as the idea is to bring this game to market. So we'll look at things like Print Ninja and other things like that where you can get your cards printed. I'll do a video on distribution. So how to get this game distributed to the entire world. And that will definitely be a little bit later of a video. So a lot of this is way further out. So of course there will need to be a video on playtesting. So myself playtesting the game, and then things such as a blind playtest. And for those who don't know, a blind playtest is where you print out the rules for a game and you get some people who have never played the game before, give them the rules, let them read the rules, give them a deck, and essentially let them play and use their interpretations of the rules. So you don't correct them, you just see how they interpret your rules, which lets you know when certain rules aren't clear, or if you need to update rules, things of that nature. And you can even go as far as to not even give them decks, just give them a bunch of cards and see how they make the decks. Now, obviously, people who have played card games before will be slightly better at understanding the rules behind deck building than, say, someone who hasn't played the game at all. And again, this game is targeted for any kids 7 and up, so I will try to find some kids who maybe want to play test the game. And I think for kids, I'll do a blind play test, but I'll try to explain the rules to them as well and see how my explanations of the rules to them are. So those are some of the videos to look forward to in this specific series. The series for the card art, that will continue as I continue to get more and more art. And yeah, so If you have any questions or anything, just leave a comment, or if you have any comments, leave a comment. And if you like these videos, please be sure to like, subscribe, and all of that other good stuff. Thanks.